We're so back. Grossi Posse Packer Nation. Welcome to another episode of Packcast, a podcast where you don't have to be Packers fan, but it sure does help. I'm your host, Tom. Predictions are back. Football is back. It's just so exciting. Grossi, and today we are going to be breaking down every single game in the week one lineup, and we got some good ones heading into this week. And before we get into that, I want to have a quick reminder. The link is in the description for the free Pick'em League. We've been doing this now for years, so if you would like to play along, I'm pretty sure we're in the top 10 on all the ESPN leagues, so feel free to join. Completely free, no obligation, but the winners and leaders of each week will be highlighted on the weekly predictions. So yeah, it's just a good time. And so, ladies and gentlemen, let's get started. Starting off with our very first matchup of the 2024-2025 NFL season, you got the Baltimore Ravens taking on the Kansas City Chiefs. The Ravens, they are going to want some revenge because the last game that they played was this past January at home where they lost in the AFC Championship game against the Kansas City Chiefs. The Chiefs, of course, went on to win the Super Bowl. Everyone was happy. Taylor Swift fans who just joined into football this past season got to see their team win a Super Bowl already, and yeah, no, it's fine. It's fine. It's totally fine. And both these teams had some interesting off seasons. The Ravens, of course, getting Derrick Henry, losing both their other running backs, Gus Edwards and J.K. Dobbins, to the other Harbaugh over in L.A. And of course, one of the biggest reasons why they lost that AFC Championship game is they did not run the ball, something they did successfully all year last season. Meanwhile, you look at the Chiefs and their Super Bowl run was dictated by their defense. They did lose Snead during the offseason, but they made that offense better by going and getting some wide receivers. Also, in other news, Chiefs fans, I guess they're pretty happy after Kadarius Toney got cut.
It is a tragedy.
Excuse us.
Yeah, we'll be right back.
We're all gonna miss him.
And this is a perfect game to kick off this season because you have two teams that are likely going to be in the playoffs, potentially battling it out to make it to the Super Bowl again this year. And the Ravens, you gotta know that they want this real badly. The Lions were able to go in and beat the Chiefs last year during the season opener. Will the same fate happen once again? Well, not if Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, or Travis Kelce have anything to say about it, because the Chiefs are definitely going to be ready for this game. And again, I said this in rankings yesterday, it doesn't even really matter what they do in the regular season. The Chiefs could lose this game. They're still going to make the playoffs, and from there, they can still make the Super Bowl. And so looking at this game on paper, I'm actually going to give the edge to the Ravens. I just think the addition of Derrick Henry is going to put them over the top. The Chiefs were 18th in rushing defense last year, so if there is one element to take advantage of, it's the run game. And considering the Ravens know how to run the ball, except for the AFC Championship game, I assume that there's going to be a heavy dose of the run on Thursday night. And the Ravens, you get this win. Now it's just going to be, can you do it again in January? Following that, you got the Green Bay mother-loving Packers taking on the Philadelphia Eagles. The Packers, after stunning the world last year, even though for a little bit during the season, it was not good. They were not a good football team, but then rallied, not only made the playoffs, became the first 7 seed to win a playoff game by demolishing the Cowboys, nearly beating the 49ers. And what'd they do in the offseason? Xavier McKinney, make that safety unit a whole lot better. Jordan Love, highest paid quarterback in the NFL, went and got Josh Jacobs. We lost Aaron Jones. We don't talk about what team that he went to. Meanwhile, the Eagles, they made some big additions as well, or more importantly, subtractions, getting rid of both their coordinators, shoring up that secondary, and also getting Saquon Barkley. Now, this game is getting a ton of buzz, and it's not just because of the two teams that are playing. It's because it's being played in Brazil. It's the first NFL game in South America, and I know there's a whole lot of garbage going on. I went to Sao Paulo in June. It was an amazing time. It's a very, very large city, but I am so excited for the Brazilian fans to be able to experience this. Unfortunately, they just won't be able to tweet about it since Brazil got banned from Twitter.
Thanks, Elon. I'll always call it Twitter.
But honestly, this is going to be a great game. You look at the secondary of the Eagles, and that was their weak point last year. And of course, just having Matt Patricia on the team. On top of that, they got rid of Swift. They brought in Barkley. I imagine their run game is going to be really good. They have no shortage of talent at receiver, and it's going to be a really tough matchup for the Packers. The Packers secondary is going to be put to the test almost immediately. And with a brand new defensive coordinator in Jeff Hafley, I can't think of a better challenge against an NFC contender. I imagine the Packers are going to try and establish the run, which is going to be tough against this Eagles front. But if they can get Josh Jacobs going and utilize those receivers and take advantage of that secondary, including Mitchell, who is a rookie, though I imagine he is going to be very good, the Packers have a pretty good shot at winning this game. But it's all going to come down, I think, to the Packers defense and if they're able to contain the weapons that the Eagles have. And I say, the Packers are going to stun the world. And the Green Bay Packers are going to get the win, defeating the Philadelphia Eagles. And if not, I'm going to blame jet lag. Following that, you got the Pittsburgh Steelers taking on the Atlanta Falcons. The Steelers, they had an insane offseason, which for Steelers fans are like, wait, hold on one second. Kenny Pickett, gone. Mason Rudolph, gone, going to Tennessee, though I know that was a little bit upsetting. Instead, they got two brand new quarterbacks in Justin Fields and also Russell Wilson, who the Broncos are basically paying for. They also got Arthur Smith, and all of his former players somehow made the final 53-man roster.
How'd that get in there?
Of course, the Steelers also poached Patrick Queen from the Ravens, so should make that defense pretty darn good, even though the defense is almost always good. And the Steelers are just an enigma, right? They could have the most garbage team, and yet Mike Tomlin is going to drag them to a winning record. And last year, they still went 5-1 within the division. I don't know how much I really believe in their quarterback play, because I don't really believe in Justin Fields or Russell Wilson at this point, but I think they're going to have a strong running game with an upgraded offensive line, and they're going to need it taking on the Atlanta Falcons, the revamped Atlanta Falcons, who went all in and got Kirk Cousins this past offseason and then drafted a quarterback. Yeah, we're still going to bring it up because it's still pretty funny because it just is. And the Falcons, they're eyeing the NFC South divisional title. And you got to hope that after all these years, Kyle Pitts is finally going to have that breakout season. Bijan Robinson, after having a good season last year, is going to be utilized even more because they have really good weapons in Atlanta. They just needed a quarterback and a coach to utilize them. Kirk Cousins is a good quarterback, and I think he'll be able to get the ball to guys like Kyle Pitts or Drake London, and they should find success in a weaker division. However, I don't think this game is going to be a walk in the park for the Falcons. I went back and forth on both of these teams. The Steelers, with their defense, I think might be able to contain the Falcons, and if it was being played in Pittsburgh, I probably would pick the Steelers. But because it's not an AFC North game where just pandemonium occurs, I'm actually going to go with the Atlanta Falcons here. They have a much higher expectations, and I just think all the weapons that they have should be enough to beat the Steelers. However, I expect this could be a very, very ugly game. But Atlanta, you start out with a W. Following that, you got the Arizona Cardinals taking on the Buffalo Bills. The Cardinals looking to have a much better year than last year, in which Kyler Murray wasn't there for half of the season, and on top of that, it was just not really fun to watch, though it was fun watching them beat the Cowboys and the Eagles. I did enjoy that. The Cardinals are one of my dark horse teams this year that they could potentially make the wild card. I think while they still have some holes on their roster, they have a pretty solid squad. Jonathan Gannon, I think, did a nice job coaching them last year, and they were competitive for a while against better teams. On top of that, Kyler Murray back with a better offensive line and Marvin Harrison Jr., some people to actually throw the ball to. It should be better. I'm not saying they're going to be world enders or anything like that, but it should be an improved Cardinals team. They're taking on the Buffalo Bills, who lost a ton of people during the offseason, though a lot of them were veterans or guys who just weren't producing as much or were injured, looking more on that defense, and of course, Stephon Diggs getting traded away. But if you could just look up a stat sheet, he didn't really do anything for the last half of the season anyway. And for the Bills, yeah, fans are just putting all of their faith in Josh Allen.
This is all I got.
And as they should. Josh Allen is a very, very good quarterback. And I think that regardless if you call it a rebuild or a reload, Josh Allen is going to be able to will that team to win some games. They had a top 10 offense and top 10 defense in just about every category last year. And this Bills team, I think, is still going to be really solid. It sucks that Matt Milano is out because you just want to see him play because he's a damn good football player. And he's really damn good for that defense. However, they didn't have Matt Milano last year either. So besides figuring out who their wide receiver one is going to be. If they could utilize a healthy passing and run game, the Bills should be just fine. I do think that they're going to knock off the Cardinals here in what could be a very close game, but being played in Buffalo and having Josh Allen, I think is going to be too much for the Cardinals to overcome. And so the Bills, they get the W. And then, this is a tough one. You got the Tennessee Titans taking on the Chicago Bears. And this is a perfect matchup because the Titans are getting absolutely no hype and the Bears are getting all the hype. So it might wind up just being an even matchup.
You may look around and see two groups here. White collar, blue collar. But I don't see it that way. And you know why not? Because I am collar blind.
You have the defense of the Titans, which is going to be pretty damn solid. Will Levis, who is unproven, but you like what you saw last year. Their offensive line was abysmal last year, and you got to hope that's going to be better. Bringing in a new coaching staff, I really love the offseason that the Titans have. They brought in Pollard, who I'm not the most excited about, but I love Spears, and I think he could have a really, really fun season. And looking at the Titans on paper, I think they've made enough adjustments that they're not going to be the worst team in the league. I know that's a really low bar, but I think that they're going to be really competitive. And I don't think it's going to be a walk in the park for the Bears here. Meanwhile, the Bears, you know what they've done. They went and got DeAndre Swift. They drafted Caleb Williams. They got Rome. They got Keenan Allen. This is the time for the Bears. Their expectations are through the roof. And Bears fans, just like real talk, you need this one. You need this to work out. And I think this is going to be a really tough game. Being played in Chicago is definitely going to give the Bears an advantage because that crowd, I imagine, is going to be insane. And Caleb Williams, I imagine he is going to play pretty well, but he's also going to make mistakes. And that Titans defense, they may get after him. However, the Bears defense is nothing to slouch at either. Looking at Montez Sweat, after he got traded to the Bears, that defense got way, way better. And Eberflus, being a defensive guy, I'm going to actually give a slight edge to the Bears. I think it's going to be a low-scoring game. I think it's going to be an ugly game, and I would not be surprised if the Titans wind up winning. However, unfortunately, I'll give this one to the Chicago Bears. Following that, you got the New England Patriots taking on the Cincinnati Bengals. The Patriots, they got Drake May. That's nice. Yeah, they're in the middle of a little bit of a rebuild. Of course, Bill Belichick no longer on the team. They replaced him with Mayo. Oh, I should have went to the Titans. It would have just made a whole lot more sense. But the Patriots, they got to figure it out. Jacoby Brissett is currently the sacrificial lamb behind that terrible offensive line, and their offense has a ton of question marks. Stevenson getting re-signed there, I like that, at least allowing some consistency on that offense, and the defense should be pretty solid. But the Patriots, I think, are going to be in contention for one of the top draft picks this upcoming season. And then you look at the Bengals. The Bengals, of course, wanting to have a much better season than they did last year. Joe Burrow back in action. They revamped their offensive line. However, I still have some big questions about the Bengals, including their running game and their secondary. I just kind of want to see how they look on the field before making any judgments. And on top of that, the Bengals haven't had the best of luck during week one in recent years.
I don't get nervous, but I'm starting to get a bit shaky, you know? I mean, I'm a little bit worried.
However, no matter how long it takes for the Bengals to get out of the gate, I really think that they should win this game. It's being played at home. Joe Burrow is back, and I think you're going to be able to handle whatever the Patriots offense throws at them. So because of that, kitty goes meow, Bengals win. Ooh, this next game is going to be spicy. You got an AFC South rivalry between the Houston Texans and the Indianapolis Colts. This was the Week 18 game last year, which sent the Texans to the playoffs, also had them win the AFC South. The Texans would, of course, go on to beat the Cleveland Browns and then lose to the Baltimore Ravens. And this should be a really, really fun game. The Texans, they are getting overhyped to the moon, and you can see why. CJ Stroud was real good last year, and I imagine he's going to be talking down a little bit to Anthony Richardson.
I've become more powerful than any Jedi.
Much to learn. You still have.
But the front office, not only did they take a big swing in the 2023 draft by getting CJ Stroud and Will Anderson Jr., but they also added guys like Stephon Diggs this past offseason. They kept guys like Dalton Schultz to keep that consistency. Oh, and they also have really good wide receivers. So this Texans offense should be pretty damn good. They're taking on the Colts, and with the Colts, expectations are pretty high here as well. Anthony Richardson, we barely got to see him last year, unfortunately, due to injury. He's ready to go, and there's a lot of question marks about Anthony Richardson. Richardson. He's either going to be the greatest of all time or he's going to be a bust. I think it's going to be somewhere in the middle, and he's probably going to struggle for a bit at first, but I'm excited to see him play. Jonathan Taylor back for a full season, no more contract issues or anything like that. Michael Pittman Jr. is phenomenal, really emerged last year as the wide receiver they've been waiting for, and they even added a fantastic pass rusher during the draft. And so the Colts, I don't think, are going to roll over here, and being played at home, it's a divisional matchup. This is going to be a pretty close game. I am going to give the edge to the Texans just because they are a little bit more proven with CJ Stroud. Anthony Richardson, he hasn't played in a while, and so because of that, the Texans get the W here, but don't expect a pretty game. Following that, you got the Battle of Florida, man. You got the Jacksonville Jaguars taking on the Miami Dolphins. And both these teams choked away their divisions last year.
Oh, look at him choke! Look at him suffer!
The Jaguars, they had it all. Trevor Lawrence gets beat up, Christian Kirk gets beat up, and everything just falls apart. But they should have won the AFC South last year. They basically pulled what the Titans did the year prior. Then you take a look at the Dolphins, they had the same thing, except good old December football came a-knocking, and they came a-falling down. Still made the playoffs, but lost to the Chiefs in an ugly, very, very cold game. And for both these franchises, I feel like this year is a pivotal year. They both extended their franchise quarterbacks, putting a lot on the line there, and I think you just want to see better play from the entire team and more consistency. You definitely want to see it from Trevor Lawrence, and I think Christian Kirk being back is going to help tremendously. That defense, I definitely want to see improve too. They also went out and got Mitch Morse, who I think is a great addition to that offensive line. And for the Dolphins, we know that offense is absolutely insane. Can that defense step up and win them some football games? It's going to be a fun season trying to figure it out. And this is going to be a great matchup and a tone setter for both teams. However, I am going to go with the more high-powered offense here. Even though I really like the Jaguars, I am going to go with the Miami Dolphins here. I think they could just put up more points than the Jaguars if this turns into a shootout. And so because of that, I'm rolling with Tua. Dolphins win. Following that, you have an NFC South matchup between the Carolina Panthers and the New Orleans Saints. Panthers fans are entering this season with very little expectations.
There's no meaning to any of this, so I wanted to find the most meaningless thing that I could come to and join.
Panthers fans got beat up last year because not only did their season not go well, but they didn't even get to draft the first overall pick because that went to the Bears when they traded up to go get Bryce Young. So that's really not so good. But bringing in Canales, I think that this is going to be the best shot for Bryce Young. He did look good in that Packers game against Joe Barry. Yup, so you'll always have that, but we'll see if they can actually develop him into a good quarterback. On top of that, they finally got him a little bit more support, helping out with wide receivers, which they basically had none besides Adam Thielen last year. And while they did lose Brian Burns, when it comes to the Panthers, what I've been saying all offseason, you just need to figure out if you have a franchise quarterback. It might not be a pretty season, but if you get that answer one way or the other, at least you know. They're going to be taking on the New Orleans Saints, who honestly just feel like they're running on a treadmill at this point. The Saints, I think, are going to be a pretty middle-of-the-road team. Their defense is still going to be really solid. Derek Carr just doesn't give me a ton of inspiration. However, I love Chris Olave. I'm sure Kamara is going to play well. And the offense can definitely put up points. It's just going to be, can they do it consistently enough? And can you get really good play out of Derek Carr to be more than just a middle-of-the-road team? I think the Saints will do enough to be able to beat the Carolina Panthers, and so they'll get that Week 1 win out of the way. And if they don't, well, then it might be a longer season than Saints fans thought. Following that, you got the purple incarnation of Satan, the Minnesota Vikings, taking on the New Jersey Giants. The Satans, yeah, it's been a rough offseason. J.J. McCarthy, they go and draft him, real excitement there, and unfortunately then he gets hurt. The good news is that Justin Jefferson is ready to go. He's extended him, so he's going to be there forever. Yay, so excited. You also went and got Aaron Jones. You got rid of Alexander Mattison, which you definitely needed to do. And that offense should still be pretty good, even with Sam Darnold there. I think Sam Darnold can win them a bunch of games. And that defense under Brian Flores was improved last year. They're taking on the Giants, who their defensive line should be really good. They went and got Brian Burns. However, they lost guys like Xavier McKinney, who was really, really good. And that offense, they of course lost Saquon Barkley. And with Daniel Jones, I don't think you can expect expect a whole lot here. I think this is probably going to be a very ugly game, and both teams are expecting to win this game. And if they don't, there will probably be some tears. And while the Giants did add some wide receiver help by, of course, getting Malik Neighbors, and you do have Hyatt, who I like, or Wan'Dale Robinson, I just don't know how good this offense is going to be. I'm so sorry, Brian Daboll. And so because of that, I'm actually going to go with Sam Darnold and the purple incarnation of Satan here, which is gross and disgusting. I just think their offense is going to be able to handle whatever the Giants throw at them, even though Sam Darnold might get sacked a whole bunch of times. I think they have enough firepower there. And Giants fans, you could always reminisce about that playoff game 2 years ago.
I wish there was a way to know you're in the good old days before you've actually left them.
Then you got an AFC West showdown between the Vegas Raiders and the LA Chargers. The Raiders, they went and got Gardner Minshew after cutting Jimmy Garoppolo loose. They also fired Josh McDaniels midseason last year, thank God. And their defense is looking like it's going to be top 5. They went and got Christian Wilkins, who's going to be paired up with Max Crosby. And I think that defense is going to give opposing teams nightmares. Their offense? Zamir White, Dylan Laube, there's aspects of their run game I'm not totally sure about. We'll see how Gardner Minshew does. He played pretty well with the Colts, and of course, he's still got Devontae Adams, but the expectations are pretty low. The good news is the Raiders are probably going to pack out SoFi.
She doesn't even go here.
Do you even go to this school?
No.
So it'll basically be a home game. Meanwhile, the Chargers, they have been saved. There is no more bad man Brandon Staley to hurt them. Instead, they go out and get one of the hottest free agents as a head coach, and that is Jim Harbaugh. And it became very obvious what kind of team he wanted to run. While they did get rid of basically all of their wide receivers, they decided to shore up on the run game. They went and drafted Joe Alt, they went and got Gus Edwards and J.K. Dobbins, and Justin Herbert, even though he's banged up right now, I think this team is going to be headed in the right direction. Although, I don't know if the Chargers are going to be a very good team this year. This just year one of the rebuild, and I don't think it's going to take insanely long, but it is going to take some time to rebuild that team. The good news is you have your franchise quarterback, you have the coach that could lead you into the future, and those are all good things. However, I am actually going to go with the Raiders here. I am just really high on their defense right now, and I think it's going to be able to stop whatever the Chargers throw at them. And while there's a lot of uncertainty with that Raiders offense, who knows? Maybe we'll have some pick sixes, maybe we'll have some turnovers, and I think the Raiders will do just enough to get it done, solidifying that week 1 win. And Chargers fans, hopefully you just don't Charger it. Then, this game should be fun. You got the Denver Broncos taking on the Seattle Seahawks. Broncos fans are so done hearing from the Seahawks about you-know-who.
We do not speak his name.
Russell Wilson, goodbye. Lots of money, don't care. Just want him off the team. He's on the Steelers now. They got rid of Jerry Jeudy. Well, it's fine because he kept dropping balls anyway. And this Broncos team, I don't think is going to be abysmal, but I don't think they're going to be very good. Their defense, which recovered really well after 70 points were scored on them last year, actually looked pretty good the rest of the season. The offense, you just don't know what they have. Bo Nix, you definitely got a Bo leave, but he's a rookie QB heading into a situation and going up against Seattle, who got a brand new head coach, added guys like Byron Murphy. That defense is starting to look like Legion of Boom 2.0. Meanwhile, for the Seahawks offensively, Geno Smith under center once again. While I don't have all the confidence in Geno Smith, he's going to do more than enough to win football games. And if their running backs are able to stay healthy, Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet should be really, really good. And you also have some great wide receivers as well. I'm very curious to see what JSN is going to do this year. This game, however, being played in Seattle, I just think the Seattle Seahawks are a better team on paper. And while the Broncos might put up a fight, I think a rookie quarterback going up against that defense is not going to end well. So because of that, I'm going to be going with the Seattle Seahawks. Sorry, Perna. Then you got the Dallas Cowboys taking on the Cleveland Browns. Oh, this is going to be an interesting game. Probably an ugly one, though. The Cowboys, well, they got one contract finally done with CeeDee Lamb. As for the other additions to their team, they brought Zeke back. Yeah, that running room does not look really, really good. They still got to re-sign Dak. They still got to re-sign Micah Parsons, but that's okay. That's for you to worry about much, much later. And the Cowboys, they were one of the best teams in the NFC last year. They were the number 2 seed, and that did not matter. And as we've been talking about, and I mentioned in power rankings, for the Cowboys, their regular season, they could look amazing, but until they start winning more playoff games, there's just not going to be a lot of confidence there. Meanwhile, they're taking on the Cleveland Browns, another team who made the postseason last year. However, it was with Joe Flacco. Unfortunately, Nick Chubb is still out, starting the year on the PUP list. I hope he gets back soon because he is just great for football. Instead, you're going to see a very good defense, and Deshaun Watson is going to be behind center once again, which at this point, Amari Cooper, do you miss Dak yet?
No. No?
And for Deshaun Watson, I think it's just really difficult to get excited about him because regardless of all the garbage stuff that's happened off the field, looking at his on-the-field play, he just hasn't been great. He has been very mediocre. And unless he can be an above-average quarterback and at least be good, a lot of the wins from the Browns are going to come from the defense or the run game. And for the Browns, they have weapons on that team. Their offensive line is good. They have the receivers. It's just, can they go toe-to-toe with a high-scoring team? Their defense definitely neutralizes offenses really well, and so they're always going to have a shot. However, the Cowboys' defense is nothing to shake your finger at. They were really damn good last year, and I think they're going to be able to contain Deshaun Watson. And even though the Browns' defense does impress me a little bit more than the Cowboys, I do think that Dak and CeeDee Lamb are going to be able to at least score some points. And so because of that, even though I think this is going to be an ugly game, and I would not be surprised if the Browns won it all, I'm going to go with the Cowboys to get the week 1 win here. Again, I don't think it's going to be pretty. You're going to see 2 good defenses going at it, and whatever offense can get the upper hand is probably going to win, and that's why I'm going with the Cowboys. Following that, you got the Washington Commanders taking on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Commanders, you could have hope again. Getting Jaden Daniels with the number 2 pick overall and new ownership, it's an exciting time to be a Commanders fan, which, when's the last time you said that? And the Commanders, I think, are going to go through their bumps and bruises this year. But same thing that we've been talking about with other teams who have young quarterbacks. You just got to figure out if you have the guy. The offensive line for Washington, yeah, looking at that tackle position doesn't give me a whole lot of optimism, but at least Jaden Daniels can run. They have good running backs. They still got Scary Terry, and even though they lost Curtis Samuel and Dotson, I think that they will be pretty decent on offense. On defense, they got rid of Chase Young. They got rid of Montez Sweat, so we'll kind of see what that defense looks like this year. They're probably in a little bit of a rebuild. They're going to be taking on the Buccaneers, who stunned just about everybody last year, not only winning the division, but Baker Mayfield played really damn well, including at Lambeau, where he had a perfect passer rating. Yay. And it took a lot of people by surprise because after Brady left, a lot of people assumed, including myself, there was going to be a hangover, and Baker Mayfield didn't really work out in Carolina a whole lot, and yet comes in, plays well, and they went all the way to the divisional round. And Mike Evans, he's sitting pretty after his 10th straight season of over 1,000 yards receiving.
You never know. I might have one left in me.
He's just unstoppable. And this game could be really interesting, but I am going to go with the Buccaneers here. It is being played in Tampa Bay, and I think they just have a better football team right now. I'm really curious to see how Jaden Daniels looked. He looked pretty good in preseason, but now, week 1, you have a chance to go out and try to make your name. But the Buccaneers, I think, will have the last laugh. And plus, they have a pirate ship. That also gives them points. Then on Sunday Night Football, you got the LA Rams taking on the Detroit Lions. The Rams, another team who had a shockingly good season last year. You had the emergence of Puka Nacua and pair him with Kupp, Stafford looking good, the offensive line actually looking good. They were pretty damn impressive. They, of course, lost to the Lions in the wild card round, but it was a close competitive game. They did lose Aaron Donald on that defense. However, they did draft another edge rusher in this past draft, and you got to hope that he could be at least 1/2 of what Aaron Donald was, minus the choking part. Meanwhile, the Lions are getting ready to face Matthew Stafford once again.
How many times do we have to teach you this lesson, old man?
I love the young people.
And they are one of the most hyped up teams heading into this season. And it's not only about playoffs or the division, it's about trying to win a Super Bowl this year. I talked about this in rankings yesterday. The trenches are great. Gibbs looks like he's ready to go, and his injury not as serious as thought. And this team should be pretty damn good. They added pieces to their secondary, which was their one weak point last year. And this team is ready to contend. And honestly, this should be a really, really fun game. This might wind up being an offensive shootout. I do hope the Rams get the win because division rivals, but I see the Lions in a very packed Ford Field getting the win on Sunday Night Football. And yeah, we'll just see you when the Packers play you. And then finally, on Monday Night Football, you got the New Jersey Jets taking on the San Francisco 49ers. And just for the sanity of every single Jets fan, I hope that this Monday night opener goes a lot better than last year's.
Dude, check the news. It doesn't matter what channel.
The Jets, rough season last year. Aaron Rodgers out after 4 snaps, and it was just rough watching. However, they were still able to win games with guys like Zach Wilson. And so heading into this year, expectations should still be pretty high, because if they don't meet expectations, everybody's getting fired. Hassan Reddick is still sitting out as of recording this video. He owes like $2 million now, so that's going really well. But even if he doesn't wind up playing, this is still a pretty damn good football team. Their offense, I believe in Breece Hall, I believe in Garrett Wilson, and I think if Aaron Rodgers is even very good or above average, they're going to do a whole lot better than they did last year because of that defense. They're taking on the San Francisco 49ers, who are dealing with their own contract woes, but they got Brandon Ayuk signed, and thankfully for the 49ers, the holdout with Trent Williams is over as they agreed to a restructured 3-year deal worth $82.66 million. So they won't have to worry about that anymore. But for the 49ers, this is a win it or get the hell out kind of year. They have to win a Super Bowl this year because they have to pay Brock Purdy next year, and that team is not getting any younger. And so for both of these teams, an opening win would be really, really big. And taking a look at this team, I originally went with the Jets. However, one area where the Jets struggled last year was with run defense. Their pass defense, amazing, and I think Brock Purdy is going to potentially have some problems there. However, if they get CMC going and they just establish the run, I think the 49ers should be able to win this game. On top of that, we're going to see how good that offensive line from the Jets actually is, and that's just a big old question mark. And so while I do think the Jets are going to be a good football team, and I wouldn't be surprised if they win this game, I just have to go with the experience here and pick the San Francisco 49ers to get the Week 1 win. But let me know what you think down in the comments below. Who do you think is winning Week 1? And of course, if you would like to play, it's completely free. You can join the Pick'em, which is in the description. But you can always find me at TomGrossiComedy.com or at Tom Grossi Comedy, all social media see down below. A big shout and thank you to all the patrons and YouTube members for supporting this channel. And folks, we are on the road to 1 million subscribers. So if you like the content, feel free to like and subscribe. Really helps out. We're trying to fill that spot before I move after this season with the gold play button. I appreciate you. But folks, thank you so much for watching. I'm Tom Grossi, and as always, go Pack Go.